by going through first off with our, our purpose, mission, vision, that sort of thing. So we will, let me just pull that document up real quick so that I can make sure we can all see that. Give me 2 seconds here. And somebody, yeah, go ahead, Scott.
The management training group I have found is completely empty. Is that
Yes
the right one?
Yep.
Okay, great.
I'll be loading these things in. So, cool. All right. So, can everybody see the screen?
Yep.
And I can only,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, good. As I'm sharing, I can only see Scott right now, or whoever speaks last. So, let's talk about this. What we want to do, and again, remember, this is not a lecture from me. This is not, me going through this. This is me facilitating a discussion between all of us. So please participate, and you may have to holler out if you want to say something, because again, I don't have access to everybody's stuff. But first off, our mission, and I think this document is wonderful. It gives you a really clear idea of where the company is heading, where we want to go, things that we believe in, and this is our culture piece. If you ever want to know, again, where the culture items are, this document has it, as well as the tribal posts, so, but this document will be available to you as well. So number one, our mission: build people. Gosh, isn't that what we're doing right now? Building people. Align with customers, innovate, disrupt labor services, and give back. As you read through these, again, I'm hoping that you'll jot down notes for yourself, things that resonate, things that kind of pop into your head. And what do you feel about our mission? How does that resonate with you personally when it comes to our mission? Build people, align with customers, innovate, disrupt labor services, and give back.
We build people. When we hire some people for the clients, we build people. We change the life of the people. So with the customers, or aligning with our customer or clients, so every day our relationship with them is, that's what we need to be perfect. If you have a good relationship with our customer, with our client, it's perfect. How we can building this? Give it the results. Bringing good people. Is be building good people. We have a good result with our customers.
So that's really good, Manny. You hit on two. So we've got clients, and we've got our candidates who come in, but we also have the people that we manage, or that we supervise, or that we lead within our offices too. So we have three entities, and then we want to think about ourselves as well. So internally we have our own people. Externally, we have our candidates and our clients. So that's great. Thank you. That was perfect. Any other thoughts about the mission?
Yeah, for me, it's personally, it's really exciting. It's an exciting mission to be a part of. It's clearly defined, building people both, around us in the world, but also internally within our own companies. And one thing that that came to mind is, like, I think it was like 5 years ago or so. I wrote a personal mission statement for myself that one day I'll have the opportunity to impact the lives of 1 million people. And I personally see this as a vehicle. It's like we are in a very big industry, in the people services industry. And we do have the opportunity as a company to really do impact millions of people's lives. whether that's in the next 5 or 10 years, it's we have the tools, the resources, and the team to do that, and it's our goal as a company to disrupt, the way people work.
Yeah, good point. I like that. What does it mean to align with customers, you guys? What rings when you hear that those few words, align with customers? What does that mean?
I'll go. It wasn't until I worked for Smart that I actually started using the word partnership in the staffing industry, and I was in it for a long time before this. So I think that's what aligning with our customers mean, considering it a partnership, where we're working with them. They're not working for us. We're not working for them. We're working with them, to align and have a partnership where it works well for them. It works well for us. It works well for our employees. And at the end of the day, everyone goes home happy.
Yeah, no, I love that. Love that terminology with the partnership, because it does mean you're working side by side to solve their issues and, reach their goals. So that's perfect. And we have to listen to our customers, to our prospects, and pay attention to what it is they're trying to do. And so that way we can align with them. Innovate. Does that ring with anybody? Innovate. What does that mean? Innovate.
For me, Carrie, looking at the word innovate is to say, be different or think for that customer. We have to go to them with something they may be overlooking. So they may have this plan or purpose, but at the same time, we're on that plan and purpose with them, but we're their liaison. We're working with them, and we come to them with ideas of how can we make you better, and with you getting better, we're getting better. So that's how I look at the word innovate on my end.
Okay, good. Any other thoughts on innovate?
Innovate too is we always looking for new tools, new resource to improve it, or or operations.
Yeah. There may be things, and there are things we don't even do yet because we haven't innovated to that point. But there are things out there that we could, start doing or shifting or bringing on board or whatever. So innovation, we want to always be innovating and creating.
And that's how you stay ahead of the competition, I feel, as well. There's so many competitors. There's around 3 million people out there in the part-time and say temp world. So we have to be ahead of that, of the 8 ball. And when we go to our clients and customers, how can we set ourselves apart from the competition? So we have to always be looking at ways to innovate and disrupt the labor industry, and just kind of be, be smart about it.
Yeah. So that segues in disrupt labor services. Are we doing that? If we're to disrupt the labor services, does that mean we stay status quo, or what do we do? How do we disrupt?
So we got to be different than every other staffing agency out there. We're not a staffing agency. We've got to raise our flag that we're not that we are different, and then we got to show how we're different. Just our segue into getting into clientele is different. What's your cost of goods? What's your fall off rate? Things like that. Key words that they haven't heard in the industry before, to get a conversation so that we can show them the whole SAP.
Yeah. So obviously we provide staffing. Okay. But what Jason's saying is we are not the traditional staffing company. Let's not be, if we want to disrupt labor services, we can't be status quo. We can't be just like every other agency. Why would they come to us when they have, 7,000 other choices, literally 7,000 choices across the United States? So in order to do that, we have to have things that other companies don't have, and then we can go in and start that disruption. Any other thoughts on disrupt labor services?
Just real quick, carry on that, just to follow up with what Jason's saying. What's really good as I've been getting more in line with, mentioning our flex staffing, our guerrilla recruiting. I kind of got off that a little bit, but these last few weeks, I've been incorporating that more in what I deliver to the customer. And the other day I was out with Jamala and I brought that up, our flex, our guerrilla recruiting, our continuous recruiting, I call it. And it really caught the gentleman's name I was telling you about Wednesday at AIT. This company he was using, it was just like, it's just warm bodies. They just want a paycheck. And as we hit that, we discussed, how that works and how that supports his business or that particular, his line of work. It causes attention. And he's like, you know what, I want to learn more about you guys. So I won't dive all into it, but the more we know about what we do, and we do separate ourselves, like Jason's saying, we need to be different. We need to talk about, our cost of goods, our flex staffing, our guerrilla recruiting, these different things. So as customers hear that, they're like, oh, wow, this is not just your normal temp agency. This is just staffing company, so that's what I've been trying to incorporate more often than not.
Yeah, perfect.
And I think relates that it's, the way I think about things like this, like disruption, innovation, it kind of leads to like two different thoughts. One of it is like, how do we, and it's related to what Manuel said earlier, and Jason and Charles, it's like, how do we as a company and team, improve the connection between employers and employees and make that quicker, better, faster, easier to be able to connect to work. But I think the other hand of it is we always think about the customer or the client side that pays us. Another way to disrupt it is through employees. Like, how are we impacting the employees that are being a part of our team or becoming associates and whatnot, and figuring out ways we can impact their lives and disrupting, a way for them to connect to work easier and better, but also have a longer term impact. So it's just trying to figure out problems on how to do that, figure out solutions on how to solve those problems.
Yeah. And it's not just a sales thing. It's definitely a recruiting thing.
Mm-hmm.
The sales part of it is we're sharing those ideas, but it's really, as we talked last week, it's really the recruiting side. That's what we do. How do we do it better? How do we do it, different than anybody else? It's the recruiting side that the client is interested in. We, in the sales side, are just sharing that message of here's how we make a difference. So that's perfect. The last one, which is, near and dear to Belinda, of course, as she is, directing the Give Back program. But again, a major part of our business is when we build these things, are we giving back to the community? Are we giving back to our people? Are we giving back to the candidates? How are we impacting by using our resources? How do we impact lives, and change lives? And, if all we're in it for is just making money, then, that's really not the mission and purpose that we have. It's really about how to build this economic engine and turn it into something of great value to the world in which we live. So, any other thoughts on Give Back? Okay. So, purpose. I just read the purpose. And so smart resources exist to promote opportunity and significantly impact lives and adding value to organizations. What an amazing piece. So again, as you got to look at these things and say, gosh, this is the direction we're moving. This is why we do these things. This is why we do the day-to-day operations, is because we've got a mission. We have a purpose to promote opportunity and significantly impact lives. I think that's a huge piece. We are builders, we build things, and it gives some examples: economic engines, employee development, transformational relationships, not transactional relationships. That's what the standard traditional staffing world does is transactional relationships. Our relationships should be transformational with our clients. So the purpose ties very well with the mission. And then when we read the vision, that we are an employer of choice partnering with employers of choice. How well are we doing with we are an employer of choice partnering with employers of choice? How do you feel about where we're at as an employer of choice? Let's hear from some of our recruiting. Anybody from the recruiting side have a comment on that as far as employer of choice partnering?
Yes, definitely. I want to take the lead on this one, and I feel like the communication that we are able to deliver to our stakeholders, which is the companies that we work with and the people that we work with, our associates, has changed a lot. More people are coming to us. More people are more engaged with us. The idea that they have about us is changing, and it's very important as a company that people are knocking your doors rather than you be calling them to come knock your doors. And we're becoming that employer of choice that we are talking about in all our meetings. And it's very important that we continue in that direction. At least I see that from the recruiting side.
No, that's great. No, that's really good. We're not perfect, right? We still have work to do, but gosh, if we're heading in the right direction, how many of our clients do you think are employers of choice? And the next question, how many of those do you think want to become an employer of choice?
On our resources side, how my vision works is mostly of our clients are our employer of choice, and mostly of them are not, but we are helping them to develop, to change that mentality with the feedback that we give to them.
Yeah.
We tell them, hey, this is what is happening with associates. People are quitting because of this reason. This is the feedback that we're getting. They might not get super interested on the beginning of hearing these bad news, right? But with the time, they're gonna see consistency. Okay, so maybe I need to change this. Maybe I have to improve on this. So it's pretty much when you see an ad on the TV and you never interested about it until a couple months, you're like, you know what? I feel like I need to buy that.
Yeah.
So that's how we're changing our culture in resources.
Cool.
We had one client in particular over here on trades that their business slowed way down, and each manager of each location really fought to keep the guys we had on staff with them. And eventually, the decision makers decided that they couldn't take on the overhead, but letting these guys go was so painful for each of these general managers that a lot of them were almost in tears, very upset. And they were like, hey, as soon as our business picks up, we want these guys back. And the guys wanted to go back. We're willing to wait that time frame and be willing to go back. And I think that says a lot about both the client and about our team partnering with them to get them the right people.
Yeah, that's a great story. I love that. And I think that that's really what we're striving for. And it's a three-way combination there. It's the client, it's the candidate who's also the client, and it's us. And that's why we have that triangle here at the very top of where it says Smart Solutions. That's why there's three hands there, because it's a three-way deal. Here's a great saying that you can use with your clients, with your prospects. We are the leader in human capital solutions through customer alignment, innovation, and performance. Okay, isn't that great? We are the leader in human capital solutions. And it's through, again, some of these things we've talked about: customer alignment, innovation, and performance. That's creating the employer of choice situation. So we really want to look and see how we align, how clients see value. You see, we can't just allow ourselves to say, hey, well, this is how it goes. We have to look through their eyes and say, how do you see value, and how do we align and communicate? and deliver that value as they see it, not as we see it. Okay, great. Any other thoughts or questions on that
I would
piece?
just say, I feel like we have a long, long, long way to go on some of this, but that we're not, I mean, there's probably to a level we're self-deceived, like we think stuff's better or whatever, but I think that's a lofty goal, especially the employer of choice, partnering with employers of choice. I don't know that we're an employer of choice yet, that we're trying to be, and we're trying to learn what that is. And we've got a document if we have time, we'll get to today that describes what we're doing on that front. But I think a lot of our customers don't want to be partners. I think a lot of our customers probably don't appear to want to be partners, employers of choice. So that's why it's important to have a really robust sales process so that we have enough things going on that we can be more picky about our customers and we can partner with people that want to make a difference. And so that doesn't discourage me, but I just also want to be realistic that we have a long way to go. There's a lot of work to be done, and we don't think that's who we are right now. This is who we want to become. It's our vision. And so there's work to be done there. The second thing I'd say is those numbers at the end, one, they've changed. This is a little outdated, this one, but the 20, it's now 1810. That represents 20% growth every year, 18% gross margin, and 10% profit or EBITDA is what we are striving for. So that's what those numbers at the end mean. 20% growth, 18% gross margin. You know, how much dollars are left to pay all of us in rent after we've dealt with everything with our associates, everything to do with the on-site temps, how much money's left over, and we're striving for 18 cents of every dollar, and then 10% profit, which means we live on the difference between the 18% and the 10. That's called overhead or sales and general administration, SGA cost, which we don't have that number, but it's the difference between the two.
Yeah. So, and we probably ought to update that as well. And that's a good point. You know, great opportunity. We've had, actually it used to be 2014, I think, wasn't it, for a while, 2014-7. So it's really fantastic. It does not mean July 15th, 2020, as when this was written. It actually has the meaning of our metrics that we're striving for. So good point. Again, and I said, we're not perfect. We're not perfect at this. You know, the whole point behind having these documents and sharing these ideas is that we have goals to work towards. And if our mindset, you know, as leaders and managers can have these things in our head, and we're focused on that, and as we go out as salespeople, as we go out as, you know, customer service people, as recruiters, if we understand these things and we're focused on them, we will see, you know, great improvements in who we bring in how we serve, and in our language and our talk back and forth to our clients. So I think that's a good point. We are not there, but I'm glad that you are feeling good about where we're headed, and that we do have this opportunity for growth. And that's what this is all about, is growth opportunity. Any other comments before we get into the core values?
Yeah, just adding on to what Ted was saying, it really begins at sales, you know, being in the field. Who do we choose to work with as we do our walkthroughs, and if these people or these customers are the type of customers we want to work with. And I had an experience earlier, and this is with Arturo, I think it was Hassan Terra, where they weren't an employer choice. And, you know, from the sales side of things, you're eager to put on a customer because, oh, it's a deal, right? That's the first sales mistake that you can make. And that customer ended up not being a good customer. They didn't treat our employees right. They weren't willing to change themselves. And so just want to reiterate the fact, you know, when it comes to being an employer choice ourselves, but also working with employer choices, it's about, you know, us at the sales side of things to make that happen by working and being more selective on the customers we work with. So
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of clients, honestly, that are, most are probably not employers of choice, but there are some that want to be, or that have never heard about it and say, well, what does that mean? And it's our opportunity to help them too. So good point. All right. So most of you have heard these pieces as we've talked in various meetings. When we talk about our culture pieces that we do, we pull from these probably more than anything. Trustworthy. For anybody that's an Eagle Scout or have been in scouting, that's the very first thing in the Scout oath. Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Trustworthy is the first one, right? And we are striving for, are we worthy of trust? Are we worthy of trust? Not that we just are trustworthy, but are we worthy of trust? What does that mean? What does that mean to you? Are we worthy of trust?
Well, for me, Kerry, I look at it as, when we're in front of a client or if we're in front of senior management, what we say we're going to do or we're going to set out to do to help that company out, that client out, are we going to do that? Or is it just a bunch of words to get in their pocket and just try to get some people out there? So as we're discussing, their values, their goals, priorities, we're hearing that, and we can say combat that with, we're helping you with your cost of goods. Your priority is cost of goods. My goal is help improving my efficiency. So as we're discussing, it's getting that buy-in, and just you're gaining that trust. You're looking at them eye to eye, and you just gain that respect, that trust. So I look at it as that for me is I'm giving them all that I've got, and I'm being upfront and honest. I'm not going to say I'm going to do something where I can't provide that. So that's my interpretation for me personally.
Yes. It's
for me, it's also like living in your values. So you can say that you're worthy of integrity, but if you don't lead from a place of integrity, it will always come across false.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was just going to say integrity plays a huge part in this, doing what we say we're going to do, right? If we say we're going to do it, then we need to be focused on getting that accomplished. If we can't do it, then we need to say we can't do it and make sure that we keep our commitment. So perfect.
Kerry,
Yes.
just quickly, to me, trustworthy is almost cliche. It's like integrity or honest. I mean, it's just, we kind of say it and dismiss it. And I not fully, but I think people just, I don't know, for me, it feels just a little too, that we just let it roll off the tongue and we move on. And so I have like flipping the words to say worthy of trust. And then you think about like, what does it mean to be worthy of trust? Let's say you had your spouse or one of your childs that needed open heart surgery. And that's a lot of trust to, what does it take to trust that individual? And so there's 5 C's that I use to do that. First of all, are they competent? So if you're going to have a surgeon open your child's chest and replace their heart or do something, are they competent to do that? And so for us, if we're worthy of trust in our role here, are we competent in what we do? Number 2, do they have the character? Maybe he cuts corners or doesn't, back to the surgeon. You don't want that. You have to have character. And, maybe it's different if you're going to invest somebody. Let's say you got your first $10,000 in the bank and you've been working for 15 years to save that money. And now you're going to go give it to somebody to invest with. Do they have character, and are they competent? Are they worthy of the trust to you to give them their money to invest in? And then are they committed to it? So back to the surgery or to the person you're giving your money to, are they committed? Is that surgeon committed to a successful outcome of that surgery, or does he not care? Is your friend or the person that you're giving the money to invest, are they committed to that? And then I would say, do they have the capacity to do it? Some things are bigger than people. If your friend's what do you call it? I was going to say a dermatologist, but that's, he does just cosmetic surgery on the hand for skin stuff. Are you going to have him do, now he's probably more, he's better than you, but I don't know that he has the capacity to do that, or that there's too much work on their plate. It's like, I don't have the capacity to hand this task to, let's say, Kyle, because he doesn't have the capacity to do it. So in this case, he's not worthy of trust, even though he's maybe the other C's, he can't fit anymore on his plate. And then the last one is curious, which I think a big value in life is to be curious, which is kind of open, you're humble, you're teachable, you're flexible, you're able to receive input. So for me, those 5 C's really define worthy of trust, and worthy of trust really defines trustworthy by just flipping it around and then thinking in specific examples in people's lives, in your life, about things that really matter. Not that work doesn't really matter, but I mean, you probably are more worried about your family's well-being or your bank account or stuff than your work. And so that kind of helps to think through some of the elements of that.
Yeah, good. That's really good. And I think, you know, I've strived, and I'm sure most of you here would say that you have too, but I've worked hard to build that trust with people, not just clients, but, you know, with team members and so forth. And you know, it's one of those things that I hope that, you know, that I can hear or feel that people think there's one person I can trust, and it's him. So I hope that we're working on that. It's a huge piece. There's nothing worse than, you know, having a client or a friend or something where that trust gets destroyed for whatever reason. And so I hope that we're the kind of people that people will say, oh yeah, you know, I trust Joe because I just have seen what he's done and so forth. So let's all work really hard on being worthy of trust, you know, and to use those 5 C's to help us understand what that means. But let's make sure that the people around us and those that we serve, that they have that feeling about us. So progression. Now, what we're doing in this management training and the books that you read and all of that stuff is part of progression, personal, team, and organizational growth. You know, it's an important part of our culture. We believe in it. Some of you are reading multiple books, you know, with your team members. You're going through trainings. You're going through all kinds of fantastic stuff to help you grow. You know, so we want to grow as a company. We want to grow as in our teams, within our divisions, within our groups, and we want to grow personally. You know, I'm, you know, I'll say I'm reading like 4 books right now, at least within just the company. And I just bought 2 books last night for my own personal use, for personal growth. So we believe in it. I believe in it. It's huge. And we want to build an organization, as we read here, where team members don't have to outgrow us. I can't tell you how many times in my past I've heard somebody who left the company that I worked with say, you know, I never got any training. Okay, I that's one of the reasons I'm leaving. And maybe that's a cop-out excuse that they were using to be able to be nice about why they were leaving. But there are a lot of people who leave and use that as an excuse. I never got any training. We hope that never is the reason somebody leaves here, because we want to provide opportunities for people to grow, and that you don't outgrow us, you know, as a company. So, and then we value mentoring and being mentored. So when you think about mentors and so forth, what does that mean to be mentored? We value mentoring and being mentored. And how do you fit into that category? I can't see everybody, but let's see. Ashley Hosang. I think you're still on there.
I'm here.
What does mentoring or being mentored mean to you?
Well, for me, what I thought once you mention it is every week when I have my one-on-ones. This helps me a lot. It's first time in my life I work in a company where I really do this weekly, and receiving all the feedback, receiving all the advices, it makes me be better every week for the next week and for the next week. And when I look back, I can see after 4 weeks or 6 weeks, everything I changed or everything I improved only because, in this case, receiving my one-on-ones with Belinda, that she's a person that has been doing this for 30 years now. And her taking her time going through this process with each one of us, for me, it has a lot of value.
Yes, great. That's perfect. And that's really important. So the fact that you said, this is the only company you've really worked for that kind of does this, I mean, that's very valuable. And, again, we want to make sure that it's happening, that you feel like, there may be other reasons you do or don't like the company, but it shouldn't be because we didn't offer anything to help your personal growth. I've read this many times. This comes from Why We Exist that Ted wrote, and that we exist to help employees in our company's personal progression. And we do what we do to build the economic engine to fund that personal progression. So that's amazing, and it's really, really fantastic to know that. Maddie, I don't know if you're on, but if you are, what does mentoring or being mentored mean to you?
Yeah, I really love this one, and we've put a lot of thought into it with our team the last few weeks. We asked everyone to pick someone that they wanted to be mentored by, and that didn't even have to be within our team at Search. I actually reached out to Kyle and I was like, I would love to learn a little bit more about HR, because a lot of our clients are starting to ask for HR help and not just recruiting help. And I want, back to the trustworthy thing, I want them to be able to trust me to have the knowledge to help them. So I just love that we have a company with a lot of different skill sets where we can branch out and learn different skills and not just feel like we're staying in our own silo of search or trades or resources. So that's just my thoughts on that one.
Yeah. And not only, I mean, it doesn't just come from, like Kyle's level, but you can be a mentor and somebody, that needs that additional help or thoughts and ideas. Being a mentor doesn't mean you're their boss, doesn't mean they're your leader. In fact, it probably shouldn't be. And I think that's a great thing. So, as we think about this, we can all be mentors to somebody, and we should really work towards having mentors in our life. So we should have coaches, which is our managers, and we should have mentors as well. We have our training like this, and then we have coaches and we have mentors. So these really help us to be better. Any other thoughts on progression before we? Yeah.
One thing I really loved about, smart resources in our company is going off that topic of we don't have to have certain roles. I feel like we're almost like we're not a top-down organization, meaning we have this hierarchy or whatnot. We have certain roles to achieve certain outcomes, such as coaches, management, whatnot. But I really do feel like we do live that principle of almost not only being mentors, but also being a guide in a way. Everybody in this company is at a certain point in their journey, career-wise. And I think culturally as a company, I feel very open to express ourselves and to seek out internal guides or mentors to ask questions. And we have that type of culture where, somebody can easily, guide somebody else, and they don't necessarily have to be in a certain role to do that or whatnot, or have a certain title. We all have that personal responsibility just to help another person within the organization to progress, to learn, to answer questions. And it's just a principle I've been thinking about lately. It's just being a guide. It doesn't mean that you're better, more. It just means that you're willing to help And I feel like that's what mentorship really is. It's wanting the willingness to assist and to help people grow and progress. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really good. And again, we are striving hard to make opportunities like this available. We want to help other people within our company to grow. We want to make sure that we have the right people, the best people, and that we surround ourselves in our company with the very best. Okay, which I think is really important. And I hope that you guys are taking good notes for yourself as you read these things that are jumping out in your mind. It doesn't mean, you're writing everything down that we're already seeing on the page, but jotting down notes about, gosh, I need to work on that specific thing, and I need to reach out to this person, and how can I help them, or who can I ask for help, like Maddie just said, where I can get more information. Please, listen to those little thoughts in your head and write them down, and make sure that we follow up on them. When we just talk about progression, I love going in. It segues well into this hard work. We pull beyond our own weight, but I love this next sentence: elite performers. Gosh, what does that mean? Who want to work with other elite performers. I can think of sports scenarios, being on an NFL team with elite performers and wanting to work with other elite performers. That kind of scenario ties well together. How do you, because people in that category, they are elite performers, but some are more so than others. And don't we want to work with other elite performers? Mariah, if you're on, again, I don't know if I can't see everybody, but what is elite performers? What would that mean to you?
I think elite performers are people that not necessarily, I guess, like people that go above and beyond. Like, everybody's best looks different every day, but as long as you're giving it your best every day and trying your hardest and going like above and beyond, and the people who are always willing to do, the extra hour stuff and pick up the slack and all that kind of stuff, I think that is like what really defines an elite performer.
Okay, good. Any other thoughts? What's an elite? Yes.
Here the other day, you and I were talking. I don't want to go back to AIT, but as we're talking about performers and the type of workforce they were looking for, the words that Taylor referred to, he goes, I like to refer to our people, my team, as world class. He goes, if you're world class, your organization, he goes, I see us being able to do some business here down the road real soon. And we just alluded back to what we are, our economic engine, our thoughts, our beliefs, our purpose here at SMART. And, it was just a good overall meeting, but that was his terminology, was world class. And I quickly hopped on that and rode that with him for a few minutes with Jamela. And so that's how I look at that. But elite performers, just having people, those that are committed, those that want to do good, those that, in simple terms, that are on time, people that, ask questions, those that want to grow and progress.
Yeah. Again, that next sentence, we want to do the best work with the best people. Isn't that the environment? I mean, that's the environment I want to be around. I want to do my best work with the best people, surrounding ourselves with the best people. And I think it brings out the best in each other when we do that.
Hey, Carrie.
Yes.
I know this is probably a long time for you, but remember back in high school?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember that far back, but anyway, when you got group projects and you're like, oh my gosh, I got this guy. I'm working with this guy who's like a complete slacker. All right, well, the whole like that phrase there, just all that means to me is I don't want to ever be considered that guy that's like, oh geez, I don't want to work with that guy. Like that means I'm going to do 90% of the work. He's going to get half the benefit for most of the work I do. It's like I don't want to deal with that. So being in a team that you like, yeah, I'm good working with anybody here, no issues. Everyone here works hard. They know what they're doing. They are on top of their game. I've got full confidence that, it kind of goes back to that trustworthy thing, right? So it's just, imagine you're in a school project. Are you that person, or are you like, oh, right, I got this guy, we're good to go?
Yeah. It's almost like going back to high school as well, and going into gym and picking your team, and then you get down to the bottom and you're like, oh man, I got Scott for basketball. No, Scott's pretty good at basketball. I love to play. But yeah, Scott, that's a good point. I think that's really what we're, again, hoping for, is that everybody that we work with, we can say, yes, I'm glad that I'm with these people, because these are great people and they got my back and I got theirs. And I know we're going to accomplish, 10 times more than just one of us, can do on our own. So that's a good point. Thank you.
Hey, Carrie, I could add a few things if that's okay too.
No, please.
Wonderful. I ran over to my my bookshelf and grabbed out the No Rules Rules. We read it with the executive team. The search team read it as well. But chapter 1, a great workplace is stunning colleagues. And one of the cool things they said in there, they said, we found that being surrounded by the best catapulted already good work to a whole new level. And just on the heels of that, I got a really fun message from Cassie on Wednesday about our new recruiter. And she said, this is what she said. I feel like she is someone that will help me level up. And it is really cool to see when we bring on team members or when we are that team member that continuously helps the people around us level up. I think that's what a lot of this is about.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And we want to be, again, those kind of people. The very last piece there, we're dependable, we're self-reliant, and we're exceeding our duty. And we exceed our duty not because it's a duty. We exceed our duty because we love what we do, and we love being able to change lives, and we love being able to help other people, and that's why we do it, And so I hope that is why we're doing it. This next piece, I want to work on getting at least these next two as we talk. I always love the quality relationship one. All of them are so good. It's hard to, I would never be able to necessarily pick one and say, okay, this is the very best one. I think they all fit well. They mesh well. It makes our whole piece when we think about it. But, when we talk about working around the best, this is part of how I feel is, happy, positive, optimistic people. Okay. And you got to think about this. Are you happy, positive, and optimistic? Is that your life? Does that describe you? I hope so. I hope it does. And it doesn't mean cheerleading type of happy, positive, optimistic, but you can be all of those things. And then I love the next piece. These people, happy, positive, optimistic, they support and they challenge and they energize and they inspire one another. Again, I think that it's good, really good to reflect and say, am I that person? Am I the person who supports, challenges, energizes, and inspires because I'm happy, positive, and optimistic? And again, it's not just, making quotes or whatever. It's your nature, it's your DNA, it's your, vibes that you're putting out. There's energy that comes from you, and that energy spreads, when you're not in a good mood or when you are in a good mood, people can tell. So hopefully we can be that happy, positive, optimistic. And then the fact that we are respectful and kind and fair to each other, and great people who depend on other great people. Again, goes right back up to the other pieces we just talked about, working with the best, elite performers working with other elite performers, great people who depend on other great people. Like Scott just said, we can now look and say, hey, I'm working with this person. They're great. We can depend on them. So, and then back to the trust thing, we trust each other to cover our backs. We have this teamwork and cooperation. So again, worthy of trust. We trust each other to cover our backs. Is that the kind of, place that you're working? Is that how you're helping develop your team? Those of you who have teams right now, is that how you're working with your teammates? Those of you who are part of a team, are you the one that kind of steps in and makes that happen? I just really want you to think about quality relationships, where you're at with that. Or do we just go, oh, it's just a job. It's just getting me through until I find the next job. Hopefully, we can help each other to where we go, I don't ever want to leave. I heard Belinda say yesterday, I am not leaving this place until they carry me out feet first. And I believe she means it because it fits this quality that we're talking about. And I think that's fantastic. Any other thoughts on quality relationships? How do you feel about your relationship with your team?
The quality relationship with your team need to be the key for everything. So if we have a quality relationship, everything is more easy. Everybody is in the same page. Everybody is have the same energy. Cover our backs. So if you don't have a quality relationship, everything is more difficult because not have a good communication.
Yeah.
If I can add on to what Manuel was saying, we should know what does a quality relationship with our team mean? What does that mean? It's easy to say quality relationship, but we all have different perspectives of what that might mean.
And what does it mean to them? Not just to us, but what does it mean to them? Have you asked that question? Have you asked the question to your team? How do you define a quality relationship? How do you define, great people depending on other great people? Can you define that? And do we have it? So
I think it's one insight I got just reading this and the other principles. It's really cool to see how everything is related to the first principle, being trustworthy. A quality relationship starts with trust and being around people that you feel you could be open to and that you feel you could be yourself. And that's how you have happy, positive teamwork, is knowing that we all have each other's backs, we have each other's interests in mind, and that we can trust each other fully, and being able to be vulnerable and, and to have those type of relationships. And I also think it's related almost to humility as well. We like to be around people who have a sense of humility. And I think that's where happiness comes from, is being able to recognize that, hey, we don't know how all the answers, and that keeps the ego down. And then you can be around people who feel the same way, who are able to be open and trustworthy and whatnot. And, that's just something I've been thinking about. That's where happiness stems from, is that sense of humility, but also a relationship that comes from trust as well. So,
yeah, that's great. Okay.
So I use the
Yes, go
Q12
ahead.
questions. I use the Q12 questions with my team when I do the one-on-ones. And yesterday I was doing a one-on-one and we got to the question of, like, do you have a best friend at work? Right. And the answer from her was not that. She was like, no. However, it isn't because I don't have a good relationship with anyone. It's because I have such a good relationship with everyone, that the connection is so great within the team that there isn't any way to say, like, this is my best friend, and alienate someone else in their mind, right? Like, the whole team has that synergy, and they energize, challenge, and inspire each other. And I thought that was like a really great perspective on it from her.
Yeah, so it wasn't necessarily that she didn't have a best friend, but that she had numerous best friends, which is good. I think that's what you want. So let's finish up this last piece here. I'm going to have Bree. Bree, are you on?
I am.
Could you read that deliver results? Could you read that for us?
Yes.
And then I'll ask you.
Yeah, we deliver on our commitments to our clients and our employees. We deliver on our commitments to each other and our stakeholders. Discipline, execution, accountability, specificity. I can't ever say that in alignment.
So, Bree, how do you feel about that whole paragraph?
I completely believe in that. So we do that, especially on our search side. I 100% think we do all of that, and I feel like we follow that pretty closely.
Yeah. So is it something that, you know, you're working with your team to be very intentional?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have anything on deliver results? How important is deliver results? I mean, how important is that?
I think it's extremely important. I mean, it's why we can remain a company is results. Without results, we get fired. We lose what we have, and so we must deliver results. We must keep our commitments with our stakeholders, and we're all stakeholders in this. I also think it's a large part of the one-to-ones because sometimes some things get a little bit like specificity, for example. I think that is a continuous improvement process to continually dial in what specifically we need to do amongst ourselves and with our customers. And so I think this requires a lot of communication and a lot of dialing in exactly what the specifics are. And so I don't know that we can just kind of do a one-time thing on this. We're always having to regroup and realign and work on all of these things constantly. So I think I look at this as a continuous improvement process as well.
Yeah.
I believe if there's
ahead,
an
Ed.
accountability issue, there's always a specificity issue. That when you try to hold someone accountable, the biggest gap you're going to always find to do that is that you haven't been explicit enough and there's not a mutual understanding of what it does. And anytime I get into anything accountability, and now that it's like, it should just be pretty easy. It's like, no, we're exactly clear what was expected, not, you know, and then I don't have to beat anybody up. I don't have to, you know exactly what it is. But if you're anything other than that, then you have, you've lacked specificity. And then one other thing, just quickly, I added some channels in the meeting and I put all the updated versions of these in there because there's a few little, just like we made those two things one sentence, and then we strive for discipline execution, you know, little tweaks like that. So we'll try to always keep the most updated version in the Teams folder, and it's under content in the management training.
Yeah. So let me give you, we talked about this as a leadership team the other day, and we said, we're going to have an expectation. We didn't make things clear enough for this call. I'm just looking here and it looks like everybody has their camera on this time. See, so being specific, doesn't that help? I mean, that's the whole thing. So once we're specific, then we are able to, you know, have that accountability piece. So being specific about what we expect from this training makes a big difference, and just on everything that we do. So here's what we want to do. Now we didn't finish up the culture piece. We'll work on that next week, and people principles. Okay. So your assignment is to go through that, you know, that last piece on this page, culture, and then we'll get into people principles. So read that and be prepared for that. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to jot down, and if you have your high performance journal, you're welcome to do it in your high performance journal. If you have a piece of paper, if you're using your tablet, doesn't really matter. But you know, here's what I want you to do. Write down 3 things that jumped out to you today. 3 things that meant something to you today. As you went through this, what resonated with you and caught your attention the most? Give you another second here. Now, as you're writing that, it's Friday. So I can't say to you, what will you do this week? But what will you do next week to work on some of those things? What action steps do you want to take to make the changes? Some of those things that jumped out at you, what action steps do you want to take and say, gosh, if I just did this, I think I could accomplish that thing. What action steps would you like to take this week for yourself, for next week? Some time ago, I had an opportunity, and I've read it a couple of times, a book called The One Thing. And as you think about these things you wrote down, what's the one thing that you could do right now that would make all the difference in the world if you just did that one thing? So next week, think about that. What's that one thing that you could do that would make a huge difference? And again, you have to ask yourself, am I doing it? And if not, when am I going to start? Because if it makes all the difference, why am I not doing it? What would be that one thing? So hopefully you got some good information for yourself. You know, things that you've learned from this stuff. Man, we are just scratching the surface for all the things we got to go through. This is really good. And I hope that you see a bigger picture when you look at this document now, when you see us quoting culture items and so forth. Now you can see the picture behind it. You can see the vision, the mission, the purpose, and you know, all of these pieces come together. And then when we add the people principles and employee engagement and employer of choice stuff, it's just really, really powerful. So again, thank you so much for being here. Please answer the survey questions. It helps us know how we can get better each time, because we can always improve. So answer your survey questions when they come out, and let's focus our attention on those things that popped into your head that you want to work on, and you know how we can strive to be the elite performers that we want to be and work around other elite performers. All right. If there's nothing else, Ted, did you have anything? Okay. All right. Well, appreciate everybody jumping on, and hope that you got something out of it. We look forward to talking next week, and you guys have a great weekend. Okay.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thanks, Carrie.
Everyone.
Happy Friday.
Happy
Yep.
Friday. Yeah.